All right, I think that's everyone for now then. So I just want to say hello and welcome to the Top 5 Challenges in Retail webinar with Zebra Technologies. Thank you everyone for joining. We have an exciting webinar for you today. I want to start things off with just a couple of introductions. First of all, my name is Shauna Maney. I'm the Business Development Manager for Retail at Quinyx. For those of you joining today who are not familiar with Quinyx, we are a SaaS-based, mobile-first workforce management solution that provides support for scheduling, time reporting, communication, mobile, task management, budgeting and forecasting, and more. Our goal at Quinyx is to make the management of staff more efficient and also more fun. We're joined here today with our partners, Zebra Technologies. If you're unfamiliar with Zebra, they have an extensive portfolio of solutions, and their goal is to give real-time visibility into everything from products and physical assets to people. They provide precise operational data not only about where things are, but what condition they're in. And from Zebra, we have Mark Thomson. Mark is the Director of Retail and Hospitality in EMEA. Mark helps retailers focus on developing a vision for their retail business that aims to improve customer experience and drive business efficiencies. Before I turn things over to Mark today, I just want to do a bit of housekeeping. Please feel free to submit your questions throughout today's webinar. We're going to be answering these during a Q&A session at the end. And now, Mark, I'd like to hand things over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Shauna, and good morning and welcome to everybody on the webinar. Shauna says, my name is Mark Thomson. I'm Director of Retail and Hospitality for Zebra, but let me allay any fears. This is not a promotional opportunity for Zebra to talk about products. I'm going to talk about the challenges and what's happening in the retail sector. And as I'm sure you know, it's a very fast-moving and challenging place right now, with many different things happening. At a recent conference in Davos, the CEO of General Electric, Jeff Immelt, said, if you went to bed last night as an industrial company, you're going to wake up this morning as a software and analytics company. And you could equally put in retail in place of industrial here. And what Jeff was talking about is the fact that data and understanding your business is of increasing importance. So knowing who your customers are, knowing what your staff are doing and how they're doing it, and understanding how the business works in general. So we'll look at some of those aspects and how those challenges are being faced by some retailers and what we can do about that. So the three major trends, if you like, the mega trends affecting retail currently, and I've tried to sort of group them together. There's various different aspects of these, and don't worry so much about the terminology. As an industry, both from a retail and technology point of view, we have a tendency to put labels on things. So don't worry if some people call it omni-channel, some people call it multi-channel, some people call it the digitization of retail. It doesn't really matter what you call it. The fact is that we need to offer more ways for shoppers to shop. We need to link our online presence with our in-store presence. And if I look at across the whole of Europe, only 17% of retail is done by pure play retailers, so the Zalandos, the Amazons of this world. 83% of e-commerce retail across Europe is actually done by existing traditional retailers with their omni-channel e-commerce arms. So e-commerce and omni-channel is absolutely critical, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that shapes out to be as well. What is also critical is the fact that we're in a world now, particularly with millennials, and I'll talk about them in a second too, where it's not so much about simply the price, it's actually about the experience that we have as shoppers. We are impatient as customers, we have high expectations, and therefore we have to, as a retail industry, make sure that the experiences that our shoppers have when they're shopping, whether it's online, whether it's in-store, whether they're collecting in-store, whether they're receiving a delivery, it is absolutely what those customers are expecting. So Diversification through enhanced experiences is absolutely high on the agenda of most retailers. And then finally, analytics everywhere. As Jeff Immelt was saying, data is absolutely the driver for differentiation. We could differentiate in many ways, but if we're differentiating in the wrong way, the way that is not relevant or contextual for our customer base, then we're wasting money. So understanding our customers and understanding our stores and who we're aiming at is critical. So analytics has to be there, but it has to be focused and drawn from the right sources. I talked a little bit about millennials. Why is that? Everyone loves to talk about Gen X, Gen Y, baby boomers, millennials, and Generation Z following. The reality is millennials are absolutely the most important category or segment of customers, both in terms of customers and in terms of staff, incidentally. And by 2025, millennials will represent 75% of the global workforce and your customer base and the shopping power. So they'll be the world's largest shopping group. That's absolutely why we need to take a focus on what they're expecting. And we know from the research, and there's plenty of research out there, that actually they value experience over things and prices. What else is happening? What are the other challenges? Well, I've put a picture up here of this wonderful Amazon Go store, which is a single store currently in the US. For those of you who have not seen this, please, I would urge you to go onto YouTube and look at the Amazon Go video. Basically, the experience with Amazon Go is that a customer can walk in, tap to enter using their phone. They are immediately recognized as a customer. They can then put products into their basket or into their bag. They are recognized, or those products are recognized going into their bag. And when the customer walks out of the store, they don't pass through a standard checkout. They simply walk out of the store, get a confirmation email to say, this is what you've bought and here's your invoice, thanks for shopping. So it's a completely self-service and new way of shopping with a significant number of sensor technologies built into the store. Now, whether or not that is real in terms of its scalability is one thing. But the reality is, when this was launched in December, I personally received over 20 phone calls from our sales teams and customers around the world saying, how can we help them get close to this? And what it shows to me is that there is a real desire to try and change the way we manage stores, we deliver service and experiences to customers. Obviously, last week also Amazon announced that they bought Whole Foods in the US. And obviously Whole Foods have a couple of stores in the UK as well. So we need to, I think, pause a little bit to think what that impact that might have, how Amazon might change that format as Amazon kind of makes the shift from a pure play retailer to almost an omnichannel retailer with physical presence as well. Amazon has already had physical presence to a great extent, because if you think about the UK, Amazon doesn't just deliver to you or facilitate delivery, it also allows you to go and collect products from physical locations, whether it's Collect Plus stores, whether it's Doddle outlets, etc. And if you add up all of the different outlets where you can collect your Amazon order, it adds up in the UK alone to over 12,000 locations. So thinking of Amazon as a simply e-commerce player is not the right thing to do. They are physical as well, and we need to look at ways to match that and counter that. Amazon are also pushing into the fashion sector and have registered a number of fashion brands and have declared their goal to be a major global fashion player. Of course, they're also a fulfillment player and offer their Amazon services as logistics services and cloud services to help others fulfill. And lastly, Amazon is also looking at how they can engage customers in the home. And those of you in the UK will probably already either have or have thought about buying an Amazon Echo or an Amazon Dot, which is effectively an Internet of Things tool for the home, and we'll look at that in a moment. What other pressures are there? And I've titled this slide "Discounters Evolve and Grow." And I was having a conversation with a major UK grocer this week, and he actually said it's probably now unfair to simply call them discounters. So I'm talking about the Lidls, the Nettos, the Aldis, etc. Because the reality is they are no longer simply discounters. They're providing fresh bakery, baked goods baked in store. The presentation is much more pleasant than it used to be. In fact, the whole environment is more pleasant. They've increased the number of checkouts and are now implementing self-checkouts also, as you see in one of the bottom images in this slide. So they are changing their format. They're growing. They're not just at the low end. They're now pushing right into the middle and competing with traditional retailers. And although I've focused here on the food sector, that the same is true in the non-food sector, where Poundland and Poundstretch, etc., other pound-based retailers and dollar stores and Dollar Tree in the US, etc., Action across Europe, are all pushing into that middle ground. We're also seeing, as I mentioned before, fulfillment being a key battleground. The last mile is absolutely critical. I don't think it's finalized yet. I think it's a long way to go. We've got people like Uber looking to offer services here, Deliveroo. We've got Amazon, who actually are now doing their major tests of drones in the UK and have made the first commercial drone delivery in Cambridge in the UK. Amazon also have relaunched and promoted their Amazon Locker service. So at many petrol stations and motorway services across the UK, as well as other stores, you now see Amazon lockers. So they're working to grow that as an option. And we're also seeing land-based drones. As you can see from the top left, that's a company called Starship, and Mercedes have worked with Starship, and Mercedes have created a vehicle to transport drones and put them into the local community. And those sort of land-based drones are designed for more localized deliveries of packages to individual properties. Whilst we talked there a little bit about delivery and home delivery, what we're actually seeing is that click and collect, so the ordering online but picking up from a physical store, is actually growing 3 times faster than home delivery. And John Lewis is one of the stores that is certainly experiencing that. And if you look at John Lewis's numbers from last year, somewhere in the region of 20% of their overall business, this is their overall retail business, was actually done on a click and collect basis. Now, what's the impact of that? Well, the impact is that if you think about how click and collect actually works, I sit at home and I can order the products that I want, but actually a member of staff from John Lewis, in this case, would have to actually pick that, pack it somehow, get it to the location where I want it, and then provide a mechanism for me to collect it, probably a member of staff to help me with that. That's a lot of handling costs for the retailer, and it requires a lot of new processes. It requires engaged staff, maybe staff doing different tasks to the ones they're normally doing. So it's not easy to make that efficient and profitable. So one of the ways to improve that certainly is to look at making sure that we can fulfill from a physical store, but the only way you can do that is if you have a very strong accuracy of the inventory that is in the store. So that's certainly a trend that we see being driven by click and collect, is improved inventory accuracy. I talked a moment ago with Amazon about the home, and it's not just Amazon. Samsung and Siemens and various other companies are looking to make our homes smarter, whether it's smart meters for the electricity and gas, etc., but also smart devices and smart appliances. So appliances that like our printers, like our fridges, that actually order their own spare parts, order their own top-ups, whether it's ink, etc., and providing that technology to do so. So Amazon, I mentioned their Echo service. Now Google has their own called Google Home, and we know Apple are entering into this space as well. So everybody wants to control what's happening at home and manage your home. What's this got to do with retail? Well, the main thing this has to do with retail is that if I take the Amazon example, the Amazon Echo and Dot are powered by Amazon's Alexa engine. I can sit at home and simply say, Alexa, we've run out of washing powder. Alexa then answers me and says, Mark, washing powder from Persil is on offer at £12 for 120 washes. Would you like me to order some? And if I say yes, then using my Amazon Prime account, that is ordered and is with me, in my case, because I live in the country, in the next day. If I were to live in London, that would be with me within the next 2 hours. So Amazon is absolutely trying to make it easy for customers to buy at home. And doing so, in that sense, they kind of own the customer. And the wider product range that they have, and remember what we said at the beginning about Amazon, they're pushing into food, they're pushing into fashion. So all the things you can get with Amazon by standard are increasing and widening. So in a sense, almost everything I want, I can order through Amazon simply by talking to my Alexa device at home. That's something that all retailers need to pay attention to and understand how do we counter that type of experience. So what's driving investment? We do a survey once a year, which is a benchmark survey about retailers and a customer point of view. From a retail point of view, the responses at the end of 2016 were that by far the #1 driver for investments in the retail space was to enhance the customer experience. So even though revenue generation and operating costs are there in the top 3 as well, the #1 by a long way was enhancing customer experience. So how do you do that, and what are retailers doing to improve that? Well, the main thing and the main tool you have available to you is your physical store, the actual store that you operate. But that store needs to have some thought put into it and almost be redefined. So we're now seeing stores being looked at as, first of all, a place where you can collect and return, as we said about click and collect. But it's also a place where we should be thinking about learning and helping customers to understand products. And that can be done in a number of ways. The image you see on screen is actually a wine bar, but it's part of a Waitrose store. So even though Waitrose as a supermarket is there for my grocery shopping, they also sell wine, of course, and in order to try and improve the value and quality of the wine that I purchase, and maybe even the quantity of wine I purchase, they've now in some of their stores put wine bars where I can get advice on the wines that I'm tasting or testing, and and that kind of ties into the Apple experience, doesn't it? Where I can learn more about my Apple devices and the Apple community, and I feel more part of Apple or Waitrose and the products that I'm buying. The store should also be there to make sure that any offers are personalized to me. As a customer, I expect the store to know who I am, and we're seeing some real changes in driving personalization and relevance in loyalty programs, making those much more about my behaviors and what I want in my profile, rather than segmented generalist offers. The store should also be a picking center, and how do you do that? How do you enable staff to pick in store? How do you send them the task? How do you give them the right devices and technology to be able to do that in an efficient way? And that's something that certainly needs to be looked at. And finally, on this slide, we shouldn't forget that the store experience as a customer you need to be able to let me shop the way I want. Either it might be an engaged shopping experience jointly with a member of staff, it might be a self-service experience, but it should also be a social experience. I should enjoy the shopping process. So it's critical that we connect customers, connect staff, and build smarter infrastructures in order to facilitate this new redefined store. So how do we engage customers? Well, we've already seen across most of the UK, grocers in particular, and now across other formats, including DIY, the use of self-service devices, whether it's my own phone, which we are seeing a growth in, and it's important, as well as store-owned devices like the ones you see on screen that are used in Tesco, Waitrose, and Sainsbury's. And the reason why these devices can be incorporated into the shopping experience is that it allows you as a retailer to communicate directly with an individual customer. So provided your marketing teams have the ability to create those personalized offers, create those personalized messages, then you're able to create promotions, you're able to build offers based on who I am, where I am, what I've bought in the past. But more importantly, perhaps in these days, is also to give me information on nutrition and allergen information, so that if I scan something to go into my basket that contains something that I might be allergic to, actually the system can warn me. So we're, by doing this, adding value to the shopping process. These sorts of devices can also be used in a sense similar to the way Amazon Go store was set up, as I mentioned before, to look at things like faster payments as well. So being able to have a pre-stored card on your own device and use that as a faster way of checking out rather than a standard checkout. So retail visibility, absolutely key. One of the ways that we can provide retail visibility as an industry is to make sure that we know what's in store. And I talked before about click and collect growing. If we think about the fashion environment in particular, then fulfilling from store is absolutely critical. So people have talked about RFID as a technology for many years, and everybody looks at, well, what's the cost per tag? The reality is that the benefit of being able to pick from store, the benefit of knowing exactly what's in store, the ability to reduce shrink, know if it's walked out of store, but knowing not just that a product has walked out of store, knowing that actually an individual product that you can now replenish has gone out of store, which means that more products are available to customers more often, therefore increasing sales revenues. So, and in addition to that, you can look at using RFID to create smart fitting rooms, where the fitting room now knows what I've taken into the fitting room and can tell me what else goes with that, provide style guides, provide product information about where that product came from, whether it's New Zealand merino wool, etc. So all of this information is what RFID allows us to link to provide increased experiences. One example of that is, as you see on screen now, the ability to put an RFID tag on the bottom of a shoe, to have a reader under a mat of some sort. And now, as you see in the image, this lady is trying on these shoes. She now sees these shoes on the screen in front of her, triggered by the RFID tag, and the screen can pretty much tell her whatever you as an organization want to tell her. And it might be that we do that shoe in 4 different colors, it might be that we have similar shoes, it might be style guides, etc., or maybe we don't have her size or different size in store, and we can provide that to her from an online order perspective. Other people that are trying to rethink the shopping experience, there's a company called Hointer in the States, which does have a retail store, but it's more of a technology company. And they've thought about how do you change the way somebody buys jeans. They've heard for many years people struggle to buy jeans simply because of the way they're displayed, the way they're tried on, because there's many different forms and varieties of jean. They're quite heavy products, they're expensive products. And so what they've done is they've developed a store based around an application. You download the app, you go into the store, and you can use your phone to simply tap on the jean styles that you like, and then within 30 seconds they use an automated picking system back of store, and within 30 seconds I get a message on my phone to say, Mr. Thomson, the jeans that you want to try on are now in fitting room 3. And if you have that level of information, if I find I've got the wrong size, I can simply tap the screen and select the next size, or use my app to select the next size, and within 30 seconds again, the next size comes into the fitting room. Now compare that to the existing way you buy jeans, where you take some sizes and jean styles into a fitting room, you try them on, and if they don't fit, what do? You have to take those off, put your own jeans back on, go back onto the shop floor to try and find another size. Maybe you can't find it, so you look for other styles. It's not a comfortable or enjoyable experience. So they've thought about that whole experience and used a little bit of technology in order to improve that. Now, Macy's have adopted that technology from Hoynter and to improve their customer experience. And they're doing many things to improve their customer experience, one of which is redefining loyalty, as I mentioned before as well. And rather than have loyalty being a card which you present at the checkout, Macy's realized that loyalty happens way before the checkout. Loyalty is actually part of the fact that you've gone back into their store in the first place. So on Black Friday, they created effectively a presence-based prize system that simply by going into the store, you are entered into a draw through your Bluetooth linking to your mobile phone, and therefore it was a Macy's Black Friday walk in and win, and you could win up to $1 million in prizes simply by being in store, because they recognize that actually you coming to their store is what makes loyalty, not the fact that you buy something, because the fact that you don't buy something sometimes may simply be you didn't find it, you weren't able to find a member of staff to help, or maybe they didn't have the size available. Now that doesn't stop you being loyal, that simply means that they need to improve their processes. So knowing who's in store and being able to engage with them and even ask them the question that, oh, you didn't buy anything today, is there anything we could help you with? Is there something you were looking for? That gives them a far better set of information about their customers than simply a point-of-sale based or points-based loyalty system. One thing I would emphasize quite significantly is that staff remain absolutely key to this process. Staff are probably our number one asset, one of our number one costs, but actually probably our most significant benefit when it comes to creating experiences for customers. So given that customers are coming to the store looking for products, our staff should know our store, our staff should know our products, and our staff can be there. And the more we automate and optimize, we can actually free up time for staff to engage with customers in the store. So some of these automation techniques are not about removing staff from the process. It's actually more about giving staff the opportunity to engage better and more with our customers. And most of the surveys that we've seen have shown that the biggest single influencer in a store decision is actually being able to get assistance from a member of staff. One example of that is ECA, joint customer of Quinyx and Zebra, and they are multi-skilling their staff through technology. Now, if you think about technology today, pretty much all of us walking along the street have a mobile phone and maybe even an iPad or tablet in our pockets or bags as well. So we've got multiple technologies. And yet, when we go into a store, most of the time, the members of staff don't have access to that technology. And if they want any information, they pretty much have to take a customer to a point of sale desk. That has to change. We have to find more ways to mobilize the staff to provide technology into the hands of staff. Because once we do that, once we give each member of staff a small amount of technology, then we can manage our tasks much better. We can issue tasks to individuals who happen to have the right skills and be in the right place. Their time and attendance becomes automated. They can manage engagement with customers in the store. They can communicate front of store to back of store, and many more things such as gap analysis, etc., and in-store picking. So huge amounts of potential once we learn how to provide the right technology to individuals in store. So staff, absolutely critical, and we need to find ways to treat them as an investment, not as a cost. Having said that, yeah, we can't deny that robots and automation is coming, but I see them working alongside staff, and I think that's critical. And we see two types of robot, really, I think. The top row here shows what I would call customer service robots. So like Pepper and like RF Spot and various others that are out there in the marketplace. These are designed to welcome customers, maybe to take customers to a specific location. So when we have a situation where that's a process we can automate, then those provide some level of benefit. I see the fastest growing section being the three images on the bottom row, which is more about what I would call operational robotics. So that could be robots to scan the products on the shelves to say whether or not there seems to be a gap on the shelf, or to do merchandise compliance, or indeed in the middle row in the warehouse and in the back of store, robots automated to bring the products to the pickers rather than the pickers having to go to the various rack systems. So robotics will be there. So in conclusion, it's been a pretty sort of fast run through of some of the key trends that we're seeing in retail and those challenges. And we need to focus on what are those real challenges and how do you deal with them. So my first advice would be find ways to know your customers better. It's not just the responsibility of the marketing teams to build profiles. It's the responsibility of all of us, including our staff. And that really is the second area. Absolutely invest in staff. Find ways to connect your staff together. There are many, we talk often in retail about multi-skilled staff. The best way to multi-skill your staff is to provide technology into their hands and to allow them to communicate with each other and to provide input in that sense. Thirdly, rethink the purpose of the stores. Remember that slide on how the store should be redefined. Who are my customers? What are they expecting from that journey? What other value adds can I provide as part of that experience? Increase the visibility, because if we're going to reduce the cost of delivering all of these added value services, then we've got to be able to reduce cost out of the process, and by doing fulfillment from store, so distributed fulfillment, we can actually reduce the cost of that process. We can reduce the amount of stock we hold in our warehouses as well, and that will improve the cost and the speed of that process. I talk about Get Phygital. It's a horrible word. It's linking the physical and the digital. But as I said before, don't worry about the words themselves. Effectively, it's an omni-channel strategy. How do I make my retail process one seamless process for my customers, so that there is no difference between the store, online, collection, delivery? It's all part of the same process. I'm treated as the same customer, and I get the same high level of experience across all of those platforms. And I guess my last point would be, don't wait for tomorrow's technology. Things are moving so fast. Your competitors are picking up on technology and improving their experiences. We've already seen what one of those competitors, in terms of Amazon, is doing in terms of its technology and acquiring other retail formats. So my challenge to you is understand your business better and pick the technology that allows you to move forward, understand customers, facilitate and enable, invest and empower your staff. And with that, I shall finish, but I believe we can open up for questions if there are any.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. That was a great presentation. You talk a lot about the challenges. This obviously was a webinar about challenges, but as you say with the takeaways slide, those challenges can become opportunities. There's all those takeaways I think we can all learn from and benefit from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so for everybody who is on the webinar today, just a friendly reminder about how to ask questions. We do have a couple here already, so Mark, I will start things off. The first question here is, do you feel mobile apps help the millennial generation to have a better workplace experience?
It's a great question, and yeah, I think absolutely right. I think an app culture, and we don't talk about this enough actually, an app culture is very different from where we were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we developed programs and software systems. We tried to make them almost as complex as possible because of all the permutations that might occur. and that meant that we needed training programs. It was difficult to use. Whereas now, we think much more in terms of apps. And I'll give you the simplest, I guess, example of that. If you download an app from the Play Store or the App Store from Apple, then when was the last time you did that and then needed some training on the app? You don't. And if this is key when it comes to our customers, and it's also key when it comes to our staff. We need to provide them with the tools, and apps are absolutely the right tools for them. So multiple apps, and using full touchscreen devices like our smartphones, we don't worry the fact that we've got lots of different icons for lots of different apps. That just allows us to access those really quickly and move from one to another. So if at one point I'm doing inventory management and I then need to move to picking or engage with a customer, I can simply close down one app and open up another app. So I think apps are huge enablers for moving our store experience and our staff engagement forward.
Thank you, Mark. And you also talk about, your last point from the takeaway slide was about tomorrow's technology. You've mentioned Amazon and their recent acquisition of Whole Foods. I think that plays well to that point about making sure you're adopting the future technology out there. So we've got a question here that applies to that. It is, how will Amazon's acquisition of Whole Foods challenge or change the retail industry?
Great one. Well, it's a tough one to answer because we're not quite sure exactly what they're going to do with Whole Foods. Whole Foods actually has two different formats. So they've got the Whole Foods Market, which is the ones we have in London, which is what I would class as a high-end foods market, grocery market. But they also have a format called 365. And 365 is much more along the lines of a convenience format. And it may well be that Amazon are going to leverage the 365 format to open up more Amazon Go style stores, to increase the amount of self-service in those stores, and to enter new markets very quickly. I talked about Amazon wanting physical locations to provide, I guess, click and collect services for customers. I think what we'll see is those physical stores being used as part of that process as well, and maybe even a learning point for Amazon as well. So it's broadening their portfolio, it's broadening their exposure to technology and to different formats. I think at the moment there's no need to panic from a grocery retailer perspective, but we should absolutely make sure that the systems and processes that we use for online fulfillment, both in terms of delivery and click and collect, are mapped out and are as smooth and seamless as possible. We should listen to our customers. We should bring the timescales in as fast as possible, because as I said before, Amazon, if I'm in, I think there's 9 cities in the UK now that you have Amazon Prime now, which means that I can receive goods within 2 hours. Now that's a massive challenge, and I think if Amazon can bring that to the food sector across wider communities, then the traditional grocers and convenience stores may need to be very cognizant of that.
Great, thank you. And we've got time for just about one more question before we hit the end of the webinar today. So that, talking about Amazon, the acquisition of Whole Foods, we're understanding where technology is going. But we've also talked a lot about millennials. So the last question here, actually, with the future of technology, also the future of our staff. Do you have any foresight into how Gen Z will affect the retail industry? So the next generation that's coming in.
Well, so what we're seeing so far is that as we move through the generations, the staff and customers themselves want to be more individual. They want to have access to technology. They don't understand it when they don't have access to technology. Gen Z, one of the things that we've seen with Gen Z is that their attention span And I'm not sure exactly how the guys that did the study tested this, but their attention span is about 7 seconds, which, given that the estimated attention span of a goldfish is 8 seconds, kind of puts it into perspective. So that we have to, whether it's staff or customers, we have to grab their attention. We have to create experiences that feel individual. We have to offer products and information that meets their needs and make it available to them without having to go to a fixed point. So these customers and staff are mobile. It's a mobile generation, and therefore I think mobilizing virtually everything that we do and creating a mobile-first concept for our stores, for our staff engagement, and for our customer engagement is the direction to follow. But also just to keep looking out for surveys and understanding how Generation Z and the millennial generation are behaving. I think that's critical.
Great, thank you, Mark. And just want to wrap things up here today. Thank you so much to all of our attendees for joining us today. Thank you, Mark, for that great presentation. There is going to be an on-demand recording available soon. You will receive an email with that, whether you've made it live or not. Any questions that haven't been answered, we will follow up with you. So I'd just like to say keep an eye out for any future webinars or physical events. We'll be sure to follow up with you. And other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.